G'day. So, we've made a decent amount of progress on our offshore oil rig project. Most notably, we designed our method of transporting all the oil and water from sea level up to where it will be needed in each production section of the oil rig. We ended up deciding that instead of routing each pipeline individually and then adding pumps onto each pipe whenever it would be needed, that we're going to use one central pumping tower, which will take all the fluids up into buffers above the height which will be needed, and from that central point simply flow the liquid down to wherever it will be used. Kind of like the way that a water tower would work in a town. And that's the concept that I'll be focusing on in this video. As I've said in previous videos, we are designing this world to be accessible by foot, but for the purpose of showing everything with ease, I'll be using the assistance of flying. Alright, so let's go through how we're getting all these pipes of water and oil all the way up. So we start off with our oil lines. I covered it in the first video. We got all the oil nodes in the northern area. Some of them are impure, so they need to be merged together. But you end up with 9 300 lines and one 150 line. What we've done here is we've got 3 on each tile, and then this tile is potentially for a train or something else that we may decide to do later. So 9 300 lines, and then you can just see under there that there's a another oil line, and that's the 150 line, just so we don't get confused. So there's 10 lines going in, 10 lines of oil. And they go up this central pumping tower, which you would have seen in the first part of the video. So we'll just go in here and have a look at how we do the water. So this is the water. There's 19 lines of 300 water coming in from each of these, and we've kind of hidden the water extractors in the pillars. So anything that you see, which I'm about to show you now, that's a little bit messy, we've kind of hidden it on purpose. So this is our 19 water extractors, and they give 19 lines of 300 up into the central pumping station. So there's another exactly the same setup, or pretty much exactly, just over in that one there, so it's hidden away. I won't go in here because the bottom floor of this is quite messy, and we've hidden that on purpose so it looks nice and clean. But you would have seen all the pumps. So there's 48 lines, 10 oil lines, and 38 water lines going up this central pumping tower, I guess you'd call it, like a water tower. We'll come up here and we'll see how it works. So everything comes up to above the highest level. So this here is the highest platform of rubber production from oil. Now each one of these platforms will produce 900 rubber from 300 oil. So there's 9 of them. And the last one over there. So that's 9. So that each one of these platforms will take 300 oil, so 1 line of oil, and it will take 4 lines of water. It doesn't take exactly 300 from each line, but just to keep everything not confusing, we've just put 300 water into each line, because that's how many lines you will need. One of them probably needs 200 or 270 or whatever it may be, but we've got every single water line here with 300. So it gets up here, kind of like a big storage buffer. All the oil ones are on the bottom, there's 10 of them. And all the water ones are above them and all around. So it looks pretty crazy up here. But it's the concept that we're going for with this oil rig. It's meant to look crazy. And even though all these pipes look crazy and going everywhere, if you do look closely, they're actually, none of them are clipping into each other. And if they are clipping into each other, that's probably a mistake I made. But as crazy as they look, they're not clipping. And every single pipe has a purpose. Every single pipe has been accounted for, and every single pipe goes to a place where it's needed. The only clipping you might see is these central pieces here, when they do the animation, when they actually have water inside them. But the pipes themselves are not being silly and clipping through each other. So yeah, that's what we have. We're pretty happy with it. It's looking pretty damn cool, actually. We've actually done a lot of support structures now. We want this oil rig to look pretty crazy, like an oil rig does, with a lot of off angles and crazy structures, kind of like this one. And we've used the micromanager a fair bit to do things like this. Just go around quickly and show a few of the supports that we've started to put in. Like I keep saying, it's a work in progress. We used the micromanager on this to make these heaps bigger, and I reckon this looks pretty sweet. It's both a walkway and a support, and a main support. I mentioned before, we want to start getting rid of as much of this plain surface construction, and start adding more detail into it, because it is quite bland, which is what we're doing here with this kind of setup. And along these edges, you can see here that 4 water lines, so each of these setups needs 4 water lines. We've actually routed this one in for this rig down here. So the 4 water lines come from the main tower, and they come down this, along here, down this fancy little water tower here, and around to where the water's needed in this actual setup. The oil has actually made its way down as well. It's one of the only ones we've actually routed so far. And it's coming down this massive reinforced iron setup, which comes into the corner. And we use the micromanager again to get this effect with the railings. It's a little bit tricky. You have to angle and turn it and play around a bit, but the end result is pretty sweet. Another example of trying to get rid of the boring platforms, which we're going to keep doing, this oil line which goes to the plastic setup. We just cut out a grid line for it, for the oil line to go through. So, flying around is great for showing off big projects like this one. However, one of the things that kind of gets concealed by doing this is the sheer size of the project that you're flying around. So, with that in mind, I want to finish this video with a bit of perspective from where my American friend logged out. This offshore oil rig has a long way to go, but I hope everyone watching has enjoyed what they've seen so far. Catch you later.